Okay, so a couple of days ago when I did my end of week, my midweek, as well as my end of week reading vlogs for week 3 of May 2020, I let you all know that I put a poll up into the Facebook group Passion for Books. I first of all want to give an open apology to that Facebook group because I keep calling them Passion for Groups. I'm sure they're passionate about groups, but their name is Passion for Books. And I put up a poll in Passion for Books, the Facebook group, leaving the link below for you guys to vote on which book I was going to be reviewing for this week, whether it was the second book that I read in the third week of May, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, or whether it was the third book I read in week 3 of May 2020, Divergent by Veronica Roth. Well, it has been an interesting polling session, let me tell you. Percy Jackson started off doing incredibly well. It flew out the gates with so many votes that it just seemed really like I could have very quickly declared Percy Jackson the winner. And then suddenly Divergent started making a comeback. By the time we got to the deadline, however, Divergent had not secured enough votes, and so this is going to be a review of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, thanks to your votes that you put up on the Facebook group Passion for Books. I was going to say groups there again, Passion for Books. So first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you that voted for out of those two books as to which one you want to see reviewed. Now we're going to get on to this review of this book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. If you have not seen my reviews before, I have two sections in my reviews. The first section is a spoiler-free section where I give you 3 pros and 3 cons about this book, spoiler-free. Then we go into the spoiler section and I detail in a spoilery way all of my thoughts about the book. So let's jump right in to the spoiler-free section with my 3 cons that I have for this book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. So, my first con for this book is that there are definitely lulls in the book. So what I mean by this, and I know that different booktubers use different terminology for what I'm referring to, but what I'm referring to is moments that really drag when nothing is happening and it just gets a little bit boring. This does not mean the book overall is boring, but it means, and this is for any book that has lulls in them, it just means that there are moments throughout the book where there are boring patches here and there, and this book definitely contained that. While I am aware of the fact that this is a middle grade book, so it's not young adult, it's not adult, it's a children's book, while I'm very well aware of that and very well aware of what that means and the expectations of a middle grade book, I did find the lulls to be disappointing. So that is my first con, spoiler free, about this book. My second con about this book is the decision that our protagonist needs to make at the end of the book. So I'm not going to say what the decision was that he made or that he needed to make, but there was a moment at the end where Percy Jackson had to make a choice. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the choice that he made logically, and I don't understand the choice that he made emotionally either. And I'll discuss this in my spoiler section. It disappointed me. It did not bring down the rating of this book, but it disappointed me, the decision that he made. My third con for this book, and you'll have to excuse my voice, I've been narrating an audiobook all day today, so my voice is a bit shaky, so I do apologize. My third con for this book is the fact that the final climax was way too short. Now, once again, I understand it's a middle grade book and that does come with expectations, one of those being that the climax and the action scenes aren't meant to go on for that long because otherwise a child might get bored if it doesn't go on for that long. But here is my rebuttal to that. I think at the end of the day, if you are at a certain age where you can read adult, young adult, and middle grade, then I feel that the author should take into consideration that it's not just going to be children who read this book. Now, while I understand that there will be limitations such as certain words can't be said, it can't get too graphic, things along those lines, I do understand. shorting or limiting the climax and action scenes and making them really short is just not something that I necessarily agree with. I feel that it's inexcusable that a middle grade should do this. So that's my third con for this book, that the major climax was just way too brief. It didn't last long enough at all. Now, I'm going to talk to you about my 3 pros for this book, because despite the fact that I have given you 3 cons, I did give this book 4 stars. My first pro for this book is the high action scenes. There are high action scenes that occur throughout this book, quite a few of them, and each and every one of them are really amazing, and you can very easily get lost in them, especially if you love or even know of Greek and Roman mythology. It's an amazing ride, and those action scenes that revolve in one way or another around Greek or Roman mythology are just really fascinating. So that's my first pro for this book. My second pro for this book is hits very close to the first pro that I have, which is the Greek and Roman mythology itself. The way that it is intertwined throughout this book makes it for such an enjoyable read. I don't talk about this a lot on my channel, but growing up I did quite an extensive amount of research into Greek and Roman mythology and the gods and goddesses of Greek and Roman mythology as well. And so to read a fantasy book where this information, there's such a wealth of information out there on Greek and Roman mythology, a book that has that information pieced and parceled throughout it is just makes such a thrilling ride and a thrilling journey. Rick Riordan does an amazing job with this. Now, a couple of months ago, I read the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series, which is the second series that Rick Riordan wrote after the Percy Jackson series, and yet it is set in the same world as Percy Jackson. And I could see that in the first book that I did read 2 months ago for that series, The Lost Heroes, the Heroes of Olympus series, The Lost Hero, I could see that he had done a ton of research on Greek and Roman mythology and pieced and parceled it out very well. I didn't know how he would go with this being the very first book that he wrote in the Percy Jackson world at all, and there are 10 books in total over 2 series. So I was wondering how the first book would go, but he actually did a really good job. He's still intertwined and pieced and parceled out bits of information here and there along the way that make this story so captivating to anyone who loves or has any kind of intrigue at all to do with Greek and Roman mythology. So my second pro for this book is the Greek and Roman mythology that is intertwined and pieced and parceled throughout this book. My third pro for this book is when Percy goes to level 600 now, or whatever level it specifically is. We will talk more about this in the spoiler section, but for those of you who know what I'm referring to, this was such an amazing scene. I felt like Rick Riordan really set the scene so well. He's descriptive, but not too descriptive. Descriptive in a way like you feel like you are there, and it was just done so well, and I was just enjoying myself the whole time going, oh my god, like I literally feel like I'm standing in a corner of the room watching this play out. It was absolutely amazing. All in all, this is such a fun read. It is middle grade, so you're gonna have a fun time without any lines or boundaries being pushed because of the recommended age range of the book. But in saying that, it is just such a great ride, and I highly recommend this book to anyone who hasn't read it, particularly if you have an interest in either Greek or Roman mythology and want to read about it in a fictional novel way, and also if you have an interest in demigods, which are children that are born to a god or goddess, mother or father, and a human for the other one. So if you have a goddess mother, a human father, or a god father and a human mother, together they create what are known as demigods, half-gods. And this book was so much fun, and I'm definitely considering reading the second book in the series because of how much fun I had. I gave it 4 stars. Alright, that's the end of my spoiler-free section. Let's move on to the spoiler section where I can discuss in great detail all my thoughts in a spoilery way. We'll be back with the spoiler section in just a moment. So this is my spoiler section of this book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. We're doing so well in this review, aren't we? My spoiler section. So if you have not read this book and you don't want to be spoiled, here is your warning. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Okay, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that Percy Jackson he's been diagnosed with ADHD, which sometimes I disagreed with that, to be honest. But one thing that intrigued me was that he was diagnosed with dyslexia. So you guys know that I've spoken about my all-time favorite booktuber. Now I've finally revealed who she is. I have a lot of love for her, and her name is Murphy Napier. Definitely check her out. She's wonderful. Anyway, Murphy has dyslexia, I'm really doing well, dyslexia, and she has not made a big deal about it, but she has referred to it here and there where it's relevant. Murphy has read this book, and one of the things that she said that she appreciated was the representation of dyslexia in a book like this, with a character who has dyslexia. I thought they would just gloss over the fact that Percy Jackson has dyslexia. I thought it would just be, I have this, and in one sentence, and we would move on. But there are actual literal examples in this book, and I really appreciate that. Like when he's given the card from his friend. It's been like 4 days since I read this book. But I'm going to find his friend's name, just a moment. Whose name is Grover. Grover gives him the call card so that Percy can call him, and Percy's having trouble reading it because of how fancy the writing style is, and the way that that is done so well. As someone who does not have dyslexia, I can absolutely appreciate why anyone who does have dyslexia appreciates within themselves the representation of it in this book, because it was written so well that I felt that I was in the mind of someone who has this. And so I really appreciated how far Rick Riordan went, especially considering it's a middle grade, so you can't do too much. You can't, linger on a scene for too long in any kind of middle grade, but he did so well with that, and I just needed to make the point that I really appreciated that. So now let's talk about Percy and Grover at the museum and how this teacher, Mrs. Dodds, who no one else knows except for Percy, ends up attacking him because she's not an actual teacher. I appreciated this so much because, okay, guys, we need to talk. I appreciated this so much because in The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero, it took what felt like forever for something to happen. And I remember saying and noting down that it took to the 16th page for something fantastical to occur. In this book, it happens so fast. I mean, we're literally introduced to Percy. We're at the museum. Boom, he's attacked by this person who he believes is a teacher, so we believe she's a teacher, and they're fighting each other. And oh my god, like, it opens up with such a bang, and I really appreciate that. The one flaw, now that I think about it, with that, in spite of how great it is in this book, is the fact that the first book that Rick Riordan wrote opens up with such a bang, and it gets to the point really quickly, and yet the sixth book that he wrote takes a long time to get somewhere, so I have some concerns with that. Maybe Rick Riordan was given some constructive, even though I wouldn't personally think it's constructive, but constructive criticism that he jumps into things too quickly, but it just felt like it took forever with The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero. Yet with Percy Jackson, he jumped right in and I thought it was amazing. So, yeah, comparatively, I don't appreciate that he, in my eyes and with the type of reader that I am, I don't appreciate that he kind of went backwards a bit. But in this book, I love how we jumped right in. I loved that the attack happened so quickly and that we're introduced to the pen that turns into the sword that he can wield, and it was just, here we go. There is no waiting. It's let's jump right in and run alongside Percy Jackson and get introduced to this world right away in this book. Oh my god, so amazing. Just loved it so very much. Then we get to the scene with the Minotaur and how the Minotaur is attacking his mum and him and Grover. I did not appreciate this, but I'll tell you why. Having read the other book, The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero, I had already been introduced to Camp Half-Blood. And one of the things that I was most excited to get to in this book was Camp Half-Blood, because I love this camp oh so much and want to live there. But anyway, I'll just live at Hogwarts all year long, and then when I have to go home for the holidays, can I just go to Camp Half-Blood for the holidays? So what I didn't like about the Minotaur, while I appreciate why the scene was there, what I didn't appreciate was it felt to me just like a roadblock that was keeping us away from Camp Half-Blood, and so from that angle, from my own perspective, that annoyed me. Because I just kept thinking, I want to get to the camp. Like, I don't care. And anyone who has read any of the Harry Potter books, I can explain this to you in this way. Whenever I read the Harry Potter books, my first thought is I want to get to Hogwarts. And each book has a certain amount of time until we get to Hogwarts, and it really annoys me because all I want to do is get to Hogwarts, and so no matter what else happens, I don't care, I just want to get to Hogwarts. Same thing with this book. I just wanted to get to Camp Half-Blood, so I didn't care that the Minotaur was attacking. I did care that the Minotaur killed his mum. That was really sad for me, and I felt so horrible for him, or well, seemingly killed his mum anyway. We are led to believe the Minotaur killed his mum, but we'll just let that go. But otherwise, the whole scene, it just annoyed me because I just felt like it was a roadblock to getting to Camp Half-Blood. So one of the things I love most about Camp Half-Blood is when the parenting god or goddess claims, which is the way it's worded in this book, claims their child demigod. Oh my god, I love it. I mean, I can quote Harry Potter and say, I love when the students are sorted into houses. I can quote Divergent and say, I love when the citizens, when they come of age, choose their faction. I love in any type of world where there are split things, so like Harry Potter houses, Divergent factions, here at the camp, the different huts, or whatever they're called, the camping rooms of the different gods. I love when they're sorted. In this world, it's called claimed, when they're claimed by their parent god or goddess. And so I was waiting for Percy Jackson to get claimed, and when he got claimed by Poseidon, it was a wonderful moment for me because I was like, yay, we now know who his father is, or yeah, because it was always going to be a father, so because we've met the mum. We now know who his father is. That's amazing. Now let's go to his cabin and see how that looks. And, well, it was a bit lonely, but still, I love Camp Half-Blood, but the most fun thing that I experience in this book and Heroes of Olympus Lost Hero is the claiming. Because, like, yay, this is your parent, and now we get to go to your cabin, and this is really cool. And just like the same with Harry Potter, yay, now you've been sorted, let's go and see your house, you know? So I just had so much fun when he was claimed. I didn't really care too much for Capture the Flag because Capture the Flag for me was a lull in the book because I was just waiting, going, when's he gonna find out, like, who his dad is? I don't know, and I really just want to know. I don't care about anything else. So I guess that's part of it for me. While I say there are lulls, maybe it's not a lull for you. But for me, when I'm specifically waiting for a certain thing to happen and there are other things that are stopping or that are leading to a procrastination before we get to that point, to me, that's a lull. Excuse me. So I really appreciated when Percy Jackson found out that Poseidon is his father and was like, yay, now let's go see your cabin, and now let's really enjoy the rest of this story now that we know who your father is. So then we learn the big deal that Poseidon, as well as a couple of others, had sworn an oath to not have children, and yet Poseidon still end up having Percy. So he's kind of an illegitimate child, and that puts him in a lot of danger, and he is forewarned about this. And then, at the same time, we find out that a lightning bolt has been stolen from Zeus. Yes, Zeus. A lightning bolt's been stolen from Zeus, and so Percy needs to go on a quest to find the lightning bolt. Percy Jackson, the lightning thief, has to go on the quest to find a lightning bolt. And so I was waiting for the quest because that's what happened in the Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero, was they went on a quest too. So I was thinking, he's going to go on a quest, we just have to wait to find out which one. One thing that annoyed me, I don't really like questing books, although I do like when Rick Riordan, does questing books because he makes them fun. But in general, I'm not a fan of quests, and that's why I really didn't enjoy, I know, but didn't really enjoy Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, I didn't. I found the Cold Quest to be really boring. So one thing I didn't appreciate at all was how a lot of the campers basically are saying that their reason for living is to wait till they get to go on a quest, and that just really annoyed me. It's a sidebar, but it annoyed me. So now obviously we know that Percy's going to go on a quest to try and recover the lightning bolt that has been stolen from Zeus, because Zeus is suspecting that Poseidon, Percy's father, has taken the lightning bolt. Now, there are a number of, creatures that appear in this book during the quest. Furies, Medusa, Echidna, Chimera. But you know what? Most of them just didn't interest me, and I'm really sorry to say that, because in The Lost Hero, I really appreciated all of the creatures that came in. But I will say, Medusa, oh my god, I love that scene, because I knew the moment they went into the restaurant, I was like, yeah, this lady, nah, I don't trust her. Why is she locking the door? Why is she sitting with them while they're eating? I'm sorry, but that got to me, because I would think that, like, why are you sitting with us? Like, let us eat. I mean, you're being nice, and I appreciate you giving us a meal, but let us eat. Why are you sitting on top of us while we're eating? But then when the hissing sounds are being described, I put two and two together really quickly and thought, oh my god, it's Medusa. Don't look her in the eye, you're going to turn to stone, all this kind of stuff. Oh my god, this scene played out so well, and I'm so happy that Rick Riordan included Medusa in this book. We then get to the point, eventually, where Percy and his friends meet Hades, the god of the underworld, and you know what? I was very underwhelmed with Hades. When I knew they were going to go visit him, I was really excited because I thought this is going to be amazing. Like, he's the dark god. This is going to go really well. And then I remembered it's a middle grade and we can't go too far with this. But it was just such a letdown because Rick Riordan writes such compelling stories that, gosh, if he writes an adult version of Percy Jackson, I want to read it. So let me know. Does Rick Riordan write adult stories? Please let me know. Because the middle grade version of Hades, I just found to be very underwhelming. Just my thoughts. What did you think? Comment below and let me know. Now, Percy's mum is down in the underworld because obviously she's died. And Hades, when he realizes that Percy is not a threat and not to blame and all this kind of stuff, he offers to resurrect her, which I really appreciated because you can see how much love Percy has for his mum and their great bond that they have. So I really did appreciate that moment. I'm not saying that was underwhelming, that was good. But the rest with Hades, underwhelming. So then we get to Mount Olympus, where Percy gets to meet Zeus. This is what I loved. I was describing this in the spoiler-free section, how I was saying that I felt like I was in the room. Oh my god. Okay, so whilst the whole scene with Hades I found to be completely underwhelming, with Zeus I felt like it was done just right. The description of the room was perfect. The characterization of Zeus was just perfect. I loved the whole scene. I loved that Poseidon was there. I loved that these two gods were talking amongst themselves. I loved the humor and like pretending that Percy's not there and then they're talking to him. I love the humor with Zeus saying, well, yes, you know, since I do trust you, I guess my reward will be not to kill you. And I just thought that was so funny. Like, seriously, bless the comedy. Yes, some reward, please. Thank you. Thank you for not killing me. I'd so appreciate that. I mean. And Percy obviously returns the lightning bolt to Zeus that just magically appeared in his bag thanks to Ares. I didn't appreciate that at all, because when it got to that point, when he found it in his bag, Percy, I was questioning the whole time, thinking, why did we go through this whole bleeping quest for nothing when it was in his bag the whole time? We could have just fast-tracked straight to Mount Olympus, but then it was explained, so I appreciate that Rick Riordan took the time to explain, no, it only appeared in his bag right at the moment that it was meant to. And then the lightning bolt was returned, and then we went back to Camp Half-Blood. And now, in the little time that we have left, I'm sure you can tell I glossed over many things and completely left Luke out of the equation because I want to focus on this. We're getting to something that made me mad. Okay, so Percy ends up being given the choice of whether he's going to stay at Camp Half-Blood all year round, or if he's going to go home and only come back to Camp Half-Blood for the summer. Now, let's talk about the pros for going home for the summer, shall we? Nope, there are none. There's no advantage for Percy to go home. Now let's discuss the disadvantages of Percy going home for the rest of the year and only coming back to Camp Half-Blood during summer. Okay, well, Luke is on the loose, Kronos is on the loose, he's going to be in a ton of danger, so that is one reason why he shouldn't be going home. He'll be leaving Camp Half-Blood, one of the most amazing places in the whole world, so why would you want to go home? Suffice it to say, there was no reason, emotionally or logically, as to why he should go home, and then all of a sudden Percy Jackson decides, you know what, even though I have a fabulous camp over here, I'm going to go home. I get that he loves his mother, but his mother even said she doesn't mind either way, and she will love him no matter what. I don't get it. The advantages of staying at the camp is that he will be able to train more and learn more about who he is and be prepared for his next quest even more. Why would you go home? It made no sense to me, logically or emotionally. Rant over. But otherwise, I thought this was a really good book, and I enjoyed myself. I gave it 5 stars, and despite the flaws that are definitely in this book, for me as a reader, whether it's personally, emotionally, or personally, logically, all in all, it was a really fun read, and so I definitely do recommend it, particularly if you're a fan of demigods, or if you're a fan of Greek mythology, or if you're a fan of Roman mythology, or if you're a fan of all three, because it was a really, really fun ride. So, to end, going to once again say this has been a review of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. It is a middle grade fantasy book about the demigod Percy Jackson and the quest that he goes on, and I gave it 4 stars. So that is the end of this review. If you have any comments, thoughts, and or questions, or if you'd like to contribute to this discussion, please leave those comments in the space below. I look forward to chatting with you down there. But in the meantime, I'm letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Mwah. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye, guys. Bye. Happy reading.